Wow.
Hello.
I don't know where to begin. I'm absolutely speechless.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yes.
We are today in an undisclosed location.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, thank you, Stephen, and his wife,
Yes.
and the dog, for allowing us just this opportunity in which, even if we were to describe this place, it would, wouldn't do justice.
No.
We are in, by all accounts, an air raid shelter, which might as well, for the substantial build of it, be a bunker.
Yes, it is huge.
You've already had a glimpse at it, but trust us, it's worth waiting on the other side. This is without question the most incredible, private shelter.
Yeah.
World War II we've ever been in. So without further ado, let's take a look. Come on. Welcome back, everybody. I mean, I'm still a little bit just for the amount of air raid shelters we've visited. This is just it's mind blowing.
There would be the ones we normally go to are a sixth of this size.
Yes. Well, this is what we're going to bring up straight away: sizes and dimensions and stuff. So we're going to now switch the camera around, so it's not about us, it's obviously about this wonderful place. So let's try and document this as best as possible. First thing we need to clarify before we show you World War II, obviously.
Yep.
It's an air raid shelter, like we said before, by all accounts. It might as well be a bunker. Excuse some of the storage, because it is being used as storage. And why wouldn't you when it's as large as this? But what's incredible, which you're going to see, is some incredible relics. If you've not seen already, we'll talk about them near the end, of all the things that you might have seen already at the top. Photos provided by Sophie, and as per usual, what an incredible place to document. So let's flip the camera around. So the idea is that you've come through this beautiful entrance, which has seen a drain, etc., etc. Go on, please.
Really robust door.
Really robust door. We have to ignore the fact, which is a little bit of follishness. If you actually, should we just have a look at this first? Because this is probably the most out of context but quite amusing situation. One of the builders, that's correct, wasn't it?
Yes.
Decided to put nuclear radiation danger risk of death. There's a little bit of follishness on there, if that's such a word. Forgive me. Foolishness. But yeah, door open. Here's a vent from the other side as well into the building, but like we said before, there's another little vent and there's also a drain here, and that also pertains to how dry it is in here, but we've got so much to talk about. We've entered. Sophie, you are the spinster. You are the owner.
Wow.
You are the owner of this wonderful, luxurious mansion that's behind us. We assume. So let's talk about the divisions then, and then let's talk about where you are in relation to this. So you're the spinster. The story is that this was a very large mansion.
Yes.
It is a very large mansion, and this was designed for Spinster and her servants.
Yes.
And it's really bizarre to see, but every single one of these would have been divided. Now, we're seeing this as a whole, but we've got an incredible thing to show you. Behind that door, there's an exact replica. Well, not replica, it's the original of what divisions these would have been. So,
the layout would have been was a corridor which
Yep.
went down the edge.
Yep.
So end to end.
Yep.
And there were divisions. You can still see the remnants. There's 4.
Yeah. Well,
to make 4 rooms in here.
yeah.
And obviously 5, 6. So there's 6
Yeah.
areas.
So everybody, like I said, where the door is, that's going to pretty much be our passageway through, which pretty much lines up to that door. And that's our little corridor, and then, like I said, each section. So we know roughly, we would assume that this first section.
Yeah. So the division, you can see still remnants of ceilings.
Yeah.
Up this wall here.
Yeah,
So that's the first division.
you can see that everybody little
Where that
finger there.
pumpkin is,
Yeah,
that's where it starts.
yeah. So I'm just going to show them around. You can see this on the camera, which is great. You can see where that's been done.
To be fair, nearly where every bit of trunking is the lighting there and just a bit shorter there.
Yeah.
Where the two divisions were.
Yeah.
And you can see, obviously, as well, the division of the corridor.
Yeah, you can, because you can see where, I was going to say, you can see the division with the line there, which is fantastic. So let's revert back to the first one. So we know now then, so now that everybody's got a rough idea of the divisions, which we'll point out on each one, we assume that this first one that Sophie's in,
This is the largest.
which is the largest, would have been probably used for hers and her maid. And we know that, which we can see here, we're assuming these are some of the hole markings for where the bunks would have been.
Yes, because you can check the still bunks down here, so you can see where they would have been.
Yep. And, mind blowing. Then you've also got behind you,
Yes.
you've got
It's little alcove.
a little alcove with some shelving, which is fantastic. Again, interesting because it's on her side, so it's in her spot.
Yep.
You know, it's like, obviously she's the owner of the house, mansion, and obviously so she's going to have all the amenities that she needs to make herself feel really comfortable within this. Which also goes to something interesting, which we'll talk about at the end, but which we'll briefly talk about now. Toilets, interesting on this one because they are that end, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Is that because, as he said, it is closer to the servant end?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is bizarre because we're talking about it's in multiple layers. Really, it's beyond an air raid shelter. It really highlights why these types of places were built. As we said before, we know that. There's multiple reasons to why these private air raid shelters get built, and we know that there's normally three main factors. Either it's they have money. We can tick this one on this one straight away, because as we know, resources during World War II would have been extremely tight.
Yeah, very scarce.
Two, they would have had military connections or been involved in the military in some sort of form. Either they might have been a general or somebody who's got their own private mansion that would have been there. We've covered them a few on this channel. Or the final one is that it might have been builders, suppliers or merchants who might have been going around and saying, well, look, we've got some cement or concrete or bricks. Yep. Would you like more of a substantial air raid shelter? And obviously that gets passed on for the neighbourhood. And it basically means that your wonderful Anderson shelter for most normal civilians, let's just sort of say, will be placed obsolete. And it's why every single air raid shelter we've been into is different.
Yeah.
But this is just a little bit more different because the money that this would have taken...
It was, yeah.
Without question, this would have probably been the most. I'm going to put this out there. This is probably the most expensive air raid shelter, private air raid shelter we've ever been.
Oh, 100%.
Because another little treat, we've got so many things to talk to you about. There's a fan.
That would be my next step.
Yeah. So let's go back to first person again. Let's role play to a degree. Spinster Sophie is in this wonderful corridor. Above us, you can actually see the vents. So this goes then to that. Yeah. Okay. So we've now gone past the owner's house, owner's quarters. Like I said, she's right by the entrance. So we know that there's two entrances. Well, there's not. There's the main entrance, and then you've got your escape hatch. So we know that's a delineation is very different between the two. So obviously you walked in, you're now into the second corridor. Now we don't know now who order of, but we would assume that it's probably order of importance in terms of maybe a butler, probably be the next one, or something like that. Yeah, it's very
your head of house,
very Downton Abbey-esque in that respect, isn't it? Yeah. So again, you're now into a second one. We note straight away what Sophie correctly pointed out, the size difference now. So we've now gone from here. So this is me here. I'm literally on that bracket looking out onto this. And then look, Sophie can literally, if I stand here to the back here, it's wall to wall. Yeah. But if they're on bunks, we know that they could just be laid up like that. And they're just there. Yeah. Yeah. Another vent. So each there is. I was literally going to say there's a vent in every single one, which is fantastic. Plenty of lighting down here, by the way. Although this isn't the original lighting-esque, that some of that actually you can see roughly where there would have been original lighting. Also, to point out for people, which we're going to show now, the original light switch at the top, which is just the classic on and off switch. Just remarkable that even survives. So now Sophie she's going down in potential order of servants now, rank. So she's now in a second quarter, and you can see that again with the delineation of where the parting wall is on each one. And again, let's measure this for the sake. It's about the same size. So if you could do that again, just for context for everybody. Yeah, so basically Sophie's just touching the edge of each wall there. And again, if you look above, you've got that's one of those vents, that's a beautiful vent that still actually exists, where you can sort of like turn it to, twist it open. And then two more to go, because bizarrely, like we said before, that one is in perfect condition. No, but the sink is at the back.
Would that not be okay.
See, yeah.
So that would have been
That's the actual,
Actually, that would probably make sense then. That you actually had, your amenities, if you had to be down here for a long time, they actually could have stayed down here as a practical house.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why it delineates necessarily as it's a longer stay. You could argue that, like, it's a bunker in a degree of the difference between bunkers and air raid shelters, but it would perfectly service one. Yeah. I mean, actually, we even said that fallout shelter, which ironically is what that door's about. I mean, you could argue this would have been perfect for a cold war fallout shelter to a degree. I mean, fallout shelters is subjective, because fundamentally it's not. It depends how deep you are, etc., resources. But fundamentally,
you could camp out.
You could camp out for a little bit. But yeah, so we're now in the next one. So automatically we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, classic again, little them. And then obviously this goes on this wall, so we know where that ends. And then the best one. So Sophie's going to turn the light on for us.
So the original division.
So this is the original division, everybody, like I said. So
see how this would have looked.
And then we walk in, and then here we are, which is
division. So this is what it would have looked like, and actually would have been curtains across each one for privacy. So you had your access corridor.
That's it.
And then you had separate alcoves, rooms.
And then
this is
here we are.
Here.
We're actually in it. And then
that was the original.
Yeah.
And there.
So we're coming through, and this is it. And do you know what? Actually, I'm going to say something. We're in here. I feel quite cosy. Actually, if I'm in this little section, knowing we've got this is what we're going to look at. It's a little bit unusual if you want to see people passing you every time, sort of going through, and you're in your own little space. But I feel safe. I actually genuinely do feel safe. There's many an argument we could make for every fallout shelter, every air raid shelter we've been in, that how safe would you genuinely feel? But in this, I feel really safe. Yeah. We're not necessarily that underground. No. But again, as you saw from the beginning of the video, it gets turfed over. Yeah. So you've got a layer of solid earthwork above you, and then you've got like basically there's a layer of stone, and it's stonework, but it's with solid concrete. So to put this in perspective, this is all concrete except for brick, which is usually just for like the outside sort of bits of blast wall, a little bit of entrance, but this is solid concrete. I mean, again, the resources and the money. So here we are anyway. So this gives us a great idea as well, because like I said, we've got a vent there. So this is what what the others would have looked like. So you've got a beautiful little vent, and you're in here, and then, like I said before, across here you've got your bunks, which again actually feel very, I'm not going to lie, you put a bunk in that, you would feel like it's very, very cosy.
Most bunks we see in air raid shelters, because of the length of them, because they're short, you have to sleep almost fetal.
You do,
lay straight. This,
and it's because primarily we've always made the argument, which what most people would read if you ever read it, air raid shelters, really the misnomer is that you'd be down there for a long time. You wouldn't really. You're down there, exactly. Just get in, stay there,
till you're clear.
Till you're clear, and then you're back out.
Yeah.
So that is a preserved. I'm so nervous at talking about this because it's just I've never seen. It's just remarkable. So then the final piece to resist. Well, no, two other bits really. This is where we've got to use. We could use a proper torch, but to be fair, we'll be all right. This we're now into. So this isn't. This is a sink.
So
it's hard to tell everybody,
there is
but we're going to try
very
and
solid line.
we'll put a photo over this so everybody can see it a bit clearer.
Shadow maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of there, sink, and there's a little washboard there.
Yeah, if you can see now, you'll see that Sophie's taken a photo of this, and you'll get a clear insight of it. And then above us, you can see another vent, which is remarkable, which is in fantastic condition. I think Sophie will get a photo of that so you guys can see that clearly. It's a really good vent, actually, in really great condition.
It hasn't had the landlord special, it's not been painted over.
No, and so like I said, we've got a sink here. And then
This would have been.
this is the escape hatch. And then also, which we've mentioned just briefly, the toilet.
Yeah.
So you would have had a toilet here, chemical toilet. You've got a little bit of a vent, etc., etc. And then it's right. But what's interesting, it's by the escape hatch rather than the entrance. Now, if I sort of sneakily get through, you'll see that obviously from above, as you probably noted, it was sealed. I'm not going to go too far because of the spiders. If you pass me that, thank you so much. Here we go. So that's the latch, which then links up to the top of what we could see above us, which you can see now, with another little ring and another little vent. And then just absolutely incredible. Yeah, so the toilet would have been here roughly. It's kind of unusual to put the toilet, like we said before, in such an unusual place. I mean, it's just amazing. You've got the original frame as well here for the shelter, which is just, again, remarkable. In fact, actually, there's the door there, actually, is right next to it. If you can pass me, sorry. Just pass you that. You can see the door there as well. I mean, it's all original. I mean, you know. So you climb up that ladder, which actually isn't that high, but then once you get to the top, there's an extra little rung at the top, like most of you have seen. And then you go, and then above us, which is the final piece de resistance, is the ventilation system itself.
Now,
yes,
this is the interesting bit.
This is the interesting bit
because it is set back.
It's
not in line with this alcove.
No, so let's just put this in context. Our alcove is here. The vent is actually in front of this wall here and up there, and that's where our first vent port is anyway. So it's its own separate thing. It's its own separate mechanism.
So actually,
but that is incredible condition. Again, if we look at the photo now, I mean, you can see the incredible condition of that vent. I mean, the fan is still there. You can see the whole lot. It's just remarkable.
But does that mean there's a little extra space above or behind this wall that potentially
I think
houses the unit?
Yeah, I think that's its own. I think that's its own special unit out there on the back.
Yeah,
it's all its own. It's its own thing. It's its own engine house within its own fan, and then basically what happens is the extractor just sort of goes quite similar to modern day ones. I would suppose. I know you always have. Sometimes you have separate engine rooms and separate boilers things, but that's practically its own thing. But the fact that it's got its own ventilation system, and we're talking World War II again. The resources. The money.
Put it this way, she did not want to be in any discomfort.
No.
It wasn't, probably not for, well, it probably would have been for her staff as well.
Yeah.
But as well for her.
You've got
to be down here.
It goes back to the story of what we're trying to sort of say in this video. Is it's actually a tale of two stories, really. It's a story of the owner at the time with her relationship with her staff and how much she clearly cared about her staff. Yeah. That she protect them, and it's also a story of how serious the threat was during World War II. They would build this. Like I said before, we're not going to give away the location, but what we will say is we're not in the place that you would expect us to be, location-wise, and that's all we really want to say because we want to respect it. I mean, like we said before, Stephen and his beautiful dog and his wife have just been so generous and kind to us to sort of like allow us to sort of see this.
Yes.
But I think we're here only once.
Yeah.
Let us go back. So let's show you. So we're now going to take you reverse way. So like I said, we've come out the escape hatch, which is just here. Sorry, Flower, for pouring your torch. Come out the escape hatch. Toilet would have been their chemical toilet, which we said is just unusual because normally you'd see them at the entrance, but this proves that actually, in this case. Sink which is remarkable with a vent, etc., etc. And like we said before, vent, you've got your ventilation system just offset. Then we come through to our just incredible bunks, and this is what this would have looked like. I mean, thankfully, Stephen decided to keep this one as just an incredible thing. You know, as we say before, you know, the owners are the owners, and they will do what they do with them. And as you can see, he kept it as a wine store, which is what most people's air-raid shelters do. It's just that this one's just a little bit more of a grandeur. I mean, I've just never seen anything like this. If you'd come down here, question, knowing how many we've seen now, you would have said military, wouldn't you? Would you? Because of how well it's built.
Probably not, because it's not deep enough.
No, but the construction, you would have argued would have been military. If you'd not known.
I would have said more money than military because of how it's not deep enough.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So definitely money.
Yeah.
With connections.
Because my first thought, believe it or not, and you know, I can humbly say this, the amount that I would have seen, I would have expected some military connection, but there isn't. And I think that's what makes it interesting. Is that just because of the construction, you're right, you make a very good point actually. There's a lot of little telltale signs that sort of give it away that it might not be military.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Incredible.
So let's carry on. Because I think we like literally this is just the best thing. It really is. So now, we're going back into another one now, and obviously it's interesting because obviously our voice has changed now because we're more open. But obviously back then it wouldn't have been that case. It would have been very compartmentalised, even the voicing coming through. And then as we carry on, we're going through getting into another one. So like I said, how many were there in total? 1, 2, 3, 5.
5, and then the little end annex.
Yep, end annex. Utilities. Facilities, that's it. And then and then we come back, and then we are left with the owner's quarters as she came through here gracefully, accompanied by a lady. And they would have just sort of waited for the siren to end, if there was a siren around here, and it was chilled out here. Been relatively comfort, I would have imagined, like I said before, and waiting for it to pass, go back and carry on with their normal amenities. It's really hard, isn't it? Because, you know, naivety, we kind of want you to picture Downton Abbey.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm the spinster, does that mean you're my lady?
Probably. I've been called worse. But the other thing, obviously, like I said before, it's solid, it's concrete, but as you can see, the external sections here are brick. In fact, actually, look, there's brick there, so I think actually some of this is brick. You've got brick here, and then we know that there's a layer of concrete on this as well, because if you can see here, this obviously the thickness of this brick is here, but actually if you look, that's not the thickness of that. It's got to be another layer. We know that that's the case because the owner's told us. But, I mean, and it's whitewashed, so it's very clean down here, isn't it?
Not damp.
No.
In any way, shape or form.
Right.
Very good.
Montage time, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay.
Let's do it.